Welcome back to Sonic Speed Reading, and I do apologize for the long delay between episodes. So let's not waste any more time and finally get back into the Metal Virus Saga. Today we're only going to be covering issue 16. I generally like doing multiple issues at once. This is called speed reading for a reason. I'm not really too keen on doing individual issue reviews, but I do need to keep it shorter for this particular video because I have a lot of other stuff in the works that I need to get back to, but also because I don't really think it's fair to clump this particular issue in with what's going to be coming up next, and that will make more sense as we cover it. As it is right now, just for the sake of the Metal Virus, I think it's important we talk about this one specific issue. So before we break all of that down, let's jump into a quick summary. When we last left Sonic, he was attacked by the newly infected Rough and Tumble, and while they were defeated, Sonic was in turn infected himself. Would our beloved hero be turned into a mindless zombot? Would he be taken out of the picture right at the start of this story, leaving our supporting cast to save the world without his help? While that would be a very interesting premise, nah, he's just fine. Tangle pops by Tails' workshop and sees the hedgehog on a giant hamster wheel. And I just need to say that I absolutely love when they write Sonic doing actual hedgehog things. He is so removed from actual hedgehogs, as he should be, so it's just adorable when they throw in jokes like this. I also love how embarrassed Tails looks. The Sonic's like, you know, whatever. And Tangle's like, so, is this, what you boys get up to in your free time? Because I'm into it. As we find out, Sonic isn't showing signs of the metal infection because his speed has seemingly burned it out of his system. Yeah, 2 pages into the issue, and we already have a solution. What a shocker. Sonic's speed can fix time, so no reason it can't burn off a little shiny goo. And the next couple pages are basically recap. The back and forth between these characters is light and casual and still fun to read through, but doesn't really further the plot. It's just here to remind you of everything that's been happening so far. So let's not give that any more focus, because as the animal people are chatting away, we turn our attention to Eggman and Starline. And this is yet another page of setup, but it's at least advancing the plot a bit, and I do enjoy the little hints of world building that this page does. Being as ancient of a Sonic boomer as I am, it's nice to see some casual explanation as to how Eggy can build a giant fortress as quickly as he does, and that's because of his badniks. Starline comments that he didn't think they were capable of such versatility, and Egg McMuffin simply states that some are built for war and some are built for construction. That's a fairly obvious explanation, but I do appreciate an explanation at all. However, Eggman also states that rounding up animals to power his badniks can be a bit tedious, but that problem will soon be solved with the Metal Virus. And from here, he launches his face ship. Not the Ark, not the Death Egg, the face ship. And I also love that it's just blowing its nose out of the mountain. And I also dig that Thanos-style throne for Eggsy, with the little Chaos Emeralds bedazzling the wall above it. The next couple pages basically explain how the ship works, so read the issue itself if you want the finer details, but basically, this ship both creates the viral goo and acts as a distributor. And just to show how much of a jerk Eggman is, his first target for the Metal Virus payload is Windmill Village, the same community that took him in as Mr. Tinker. This is the first of many, many dark moments that are to come. But can we just take a moment to appreciate how hilarious it looks when a giant face just vomits all over a town? Look how the virus drops out! Blah! We see Scruffy, the kindly village elder, do his best to shield a child from the metallic wave, but to no avail, as they quickly turn into zombots. We see other civilians attempt to take refuge on a roof and try to help someone out of the liquid, not realizing that they are sealing their own fates. And I also need to point out here that this guy's already turning, even though he's not completely covered. This is a slight visual and continuity error I will point out later on in a different video. Next, we see some actual destruction from the zombots themselves, who tear through doors so they can touch people on the arm. Look, I know it's a kid's comic, but they do deflate the terror of a zombie horde when all they're really doing is using people as hand towels. I recommend not thinking about it too deeply though, because it will take the wind out of sails of later scenarios. So let's keep going. It really took no time at all to completely take over this little village. Eggman asks Starline how he liked the show, and just in case you thought there might be any redeeming quality to this platypus, Starline calls it a transcendent experience. He is in awe of Eggman. He loved every second of this. Man, what a duckhead. With his Insta army now ready, Eggman commands them to spread the virus far and wide, and they proceed to do just that, with a little handprint on the tree reminding the reader just how serious this virus really is. And after the year that was 2020, I don't think I need to remind anybody how serious a virus can be. But when this book came out, we certainly were not ready for how horrible things would become. And the same can be said for Sonic and Friends, because the bad news isn't done rolling in. We return to Sonic as he's finalizing the next course of action with Tails and Tangle. He puts his hand up to high-five Tangle, only to see a sparkling glint just below his glove. He avoids making contact with Tangle at just the last moment. And thank goodness, because as it turns out, Sonic is still infected with the virus. His speed has only pushed it back. It has not yet been cured. So with that, Sonic rushes off, but with a worried look on his face, that incessant confidence wavering. And while he's on the move, he thinks to himself that he has been in somewhat similar circumstances before, making references to Unleashed and Secret Rings, but he does note that this feels different. And buddy, you have no idea. The issue ends with the virus slowly creeping up the side of a tree, making contact with a sleeping Flicky. It awakens as a Zombot and takes flight, and the last page shows us that even the smallest infected can potentially cause massive damage, as we see the little bird making its way towards a bustling city. So that is issue 16, and I know I skipped through quite a few pages as a lot of it was recap, but things really hit the fan in issue 17 going forward, and I felt it was important to take a breather here to really emphasize everything that's being set up in this one issue. Just a bit of a critique first though, I did have issue with the exhausting amount of time recounting things that had happened up to this issue, which is normally fine here and there for a long-running comic series, but considering every issue has a recap page, this did feel excessive. Just bringing Tangle in to play audience surrogate and then in turn advertise her own mini story in the annual for a split second felt like a waste of a few pages. But also, it was good to remind readers that she does exist and her cheery mood really sets the tone for the scenes featuring Sonic and pals. She doesn't show up very much after this issue, and for good reason, because as we will see, the book takes a decidedly darker tone going forward, and Tangle's endless optimism just isn't the best fit here. That's not to say she isn't in for some really amazing moments in this arc, or that her character can't work in more serious moments as we've seen in her miniseries, but I think keeping the focus off of her was the right call, because the tone she helps set when she's talking with Sonic and Tails juxtaposes brilliantly against Eggman's assault on Windmill Village. And even though we now understand the devastation that can be caused by the face ship and the virus and the looming threat it presents to Sonic himself, all of that is underplayed with Tangle cheering our heroes on, confident that the boys will get things sorted out. We start off positive and upbeat, sink into a cold terror with Eggman, and then come back up for air with Tangle to bookend things. Her presence here is the last glimmer of positivity these characters are going to have for a long while, with nobody, be it the cast or the reader, hell, even Eggman himself, truly understanding just how serious things are about to get. And I also want to reiterate a point I made in my Modern Sonic video, because I really like how Ian writes Eggman, and I kind of want to compare him to Robotnik from SatAM. And look, Archie fans, I know that there's a lot of history worth untangling and sorting out with that version of Robotnik / Robo-Robotnik / Eggman / Reboot Eggman, all in due time. But while IDW Eggman certainly has the history of video game Eggman, this is essentially a fresh start for the character. And even though the Metal Virus was originally intended for the Archie reboot era, this is also kind of a fresh start and reinterpretation of SatAM's robotization. In the old SatAM universe, Robotnik had taken over the world, and a large part of that was taking over not only the Kingdom of Acorn, but the ability to roboticize Mobians. It was thanks to this and this weird giant warship of his that he was able to overthrow the king and in turn take over the world of Mobius. He was so overwhelmingly powerful that Sonic and his freedom fighter pals would spend most of their time in hiding. So you can see some parallels between between that rendition of Sonic and his story as opposed to the IDW Saga of the Metal Virus. We certainly have a lot of hindsight to really refine this idea and make it something new, but I still want to compare it to Eggman's Metal Virus. Because like I said before, if you take the modern team of Sonic characters and plot them into the Sad AM world, Robotropolis would be gone by the end of the day. I love the Freedom Fighters. I've certainly spent a great deal of time talking about how great of a character Sally is, and I will get to the rest of them in due time. But over the years, Sonic's abilities have greatly improved. And even back then, Sad AM left out a lot of abilities that Sonic was capable of doing in the video games, namely the Super and Hyper forms. And that's also not including Amy Rose and her Pico Hammer, or Modern Tails and his brilliance. Knuckles doesn't even exist in that world. Or Shadow. Silver. There are a lot of super-powered buddies for Sonic to bring along to take this dictator down. So in turn, to balance out that power, you need a villain who can go as hard as Dr. Eggman. Sure, he hasn't quite taken over the world outside of that one time, but when you compare robotization as opposed to the Metal Virus is far more efficient and much faster acting. This is just one of Eggman's many giant schemes. He's just throwing this crap out all the time. That's why Sonic and Eggman balance each other out. So no one side has more overwhelming power than the other. And that's how I see the Metal Virus. I see it as a very extra version of robotization. And I don't know about you, but that is pretty cool. And you have the extra added wrinkle of Sonic having a very severe handicap that will come into play through this entire saga. While the silver lining of Sonic's silver spots is that he can keep it contained with his speed, the book only alludes to what Sonic himself is about to endure. Sure, Sonic runs fast, but have you ever asked yourself, for how long can he keep running? So that's going to do it for today. Like I said in my first Metal Virus video, I'm not planning on derailing for talking points too often until we get to the end. There is one more key moment that we definitely need to take a break and really talk about, and I know a lot of you already know what it is, but outside of that, we're going to be focusing mostly on the summary, and by the end of it, I will break down my overall thoughts. So be sure to stick around for the ride. If you are not already subscribed, well, you're on YouTube. I think you know how this works. Your support is so greatly appreciated, and an extra big mega thank you to my patrons over on Patreon. I do want to spend more time this year really focusing up on Patreon and finally rolling out some tiers. I've just been so far behind on some art projects and video ideas that I've been afraid to really commit to anything because I really don't want to let anybody down more than I already have. And that's part of the reason why you're getting a shorter video as opposed to the new Chaotix video and some other stuff. Because behind the scenes, I'm really busy trying to get moved to a new house and just catch up on everything. Once I get real life sorted out, I really want to focus up and really provide you guys with some next level content. Last year was a very exciting year for me, as horrible as it was for the entire world. You guys took to my channel and really changed my life. I really don't think I would have endured 2020 the same way without all of you, and I can never thank everybody enough for that. So I still want to provide great videos, and I definitely want to be providing a little bit extra for the Patreons who are supporting me with their own money. And I know from firsthand experience that's not the easiest thing in the world to do, especially with a pandemic still in play. So if you have any ideas that you would like to see brought into this channel, shout it out, let me know. I'm always listening, I'm always open to feedback, and I'm always appreciative of everything you guys do for me. But with all of that said, it's time to wrap this up because we got a lot of other projects we gotta get out the door. So until next time, toot toot, Metal Warriors.